So now, welcome back my dear students. So today's topic is about entity. So let us see what is this entity. So here it is the definition, entity. An entity is a real world thing which can be distinctly identified. It is a real world thing which can be distinctly identified. It is an object which is distinguishable from the others. अब यो भने के हो? So entity it is a object but which can be distinguished. So हेरौं यसमा suppose for example मेरो यो दुईटा मार्कर छ. दुईटा कस्तो छ? Two are of blue color. Both of them are of blue color. Blue colors. So it is an object. एउटा object हो, एउटा object हो. Okay. So now if I keep these two markers, यो marker मैले first मा कुन marker लेखे? एउटा marker लेखेको छु, एउटा marker लेखेको छु. ल म यसलाई mix गरिदिए यसरी mix गरेर now अब यसलाई भन्नु सक्यो कुन मार्करले मैले लेखेको थिए र कुन मार्करले लेखेको थिएन. So we cannot distinguish. So now this object it cannot be treated as an entity. Entity मा चाहिँ के हुनुपर्छ? त्यो object के हुन्छ? Object should be identified. So अब now मैले यो लिए दुईटा मार्कर छ. One is black and one is blue. Even if I mix these two, यो दुईटा mix गरे पनि के हुन्छ? Now I can identify these two objects. यो दुईटा objects मा I can identify this is black and this is blue. The object which can be identified, so it is known as an entity. Suppose for example, let's take another example in a table. So this is a table called student. This is a table called student. So each and every of this row, it represents an entity. It represents an entity because अब यो स्टुडेन्ट छ, यो स्टुडेन्ट को each and every row लाई पनि के भन्छ? Entity. Each and every of this row it represents record. Okay ना? So record means it is an object. Record पनि एउटा object हो. So each and every of these objects are different from each other. So that is why we call it as an entity. The object which can be distinguished, it is known as an entity. And now let's see here. Tangible. Now next is tangible entity and intangible entity. So let us see what is this tangible entity. The entity, those entities which exist in the real world is known as tangible. जुन चाहिँ entity, जुन चाहिँ objects which can be exist in a real world, that is known as tangible. For example, car, person, bank locker, person पनि एउटा object हो. तर all the each and every person are different from each other. So that's why the person is an entity. Okay. Suppose for bank locker पनि सबै मान्छेको different bank lockers हुन्छ. So bank locker is an entity. So now and which exists in a real world. जुन चिजलाई चाहिँ we can touch, जुन चाहिँ physical छ. कारलाई हामी छुन सक्छौं, person touch गर्नु सक्छ, and bank locker also we can touch. It is in physical world. So now next is intangible entity. Intangible entity means what? Those entity which exist logically and have no physical existence. The entity, the object हो जसलाई चाहिँ हामी छुन सक्दैनौं, which does not exist in the physical world. For example, bank account. Bank account is an entity. किनभने त्यो bank account ले it can uniquely identify an object. It can uniquely identify an object, or it can uniquely identify a record. So this bank account is an entity. It is known as intangible entity because it cannot be the bank account जुन छ त्यसलाई हामी छुन सक्दैनौं. It is not in physical existence. So that's why it is known as intangible entity. Now let us see next is entity set. So now what is this entity? Entity is nothing but it is only the collection of entities of the same type. See, collection of entities of the same type. Each and every of this entity are of same type. Same छ भनेको हैन, same type हो. किनभने यो Amit, it is a person, Vinay is a person, and Chetan is also a person, and they have their own roll numbers and address पनि आफ्नो आफ्नो छ. So each and every of this row it represents entity, and the group of this entity is known as entity set. It is known as entity set. And this student we call it as entity type. यसलाई चाहिँ हामी एन्टिटी टाइप भन्छौँ किन भन्दाखेरि यो जुन एन्टिटी छ दिस अमित इज यो को अमित इज अ स्टुडेन्ट विनय इज अल्सो a student and चेतन इज अल्सो अ स्टुडेन्ट सबै के हो स्टुडेन्ट यसको सबैको टाइप के छ स्टुडेन्ट टाइप सो दिस table name is known as entity each and every of these rows are table name is known as entity type and each and every of this row it represents entity and the collection of these entity is known as entity set okay now again हामीले पहिले एउटा स्केमा पढेको थियौ नि हैन स्केमा SCHEMA schema so what is this schema के भन्छ हामी the overall design of a table is known as schema so यो जुन overall design छ this is schema so we can consider this schema as entity set and each and every of this row each and every of this row is an entity and we can call this entity as instance each and every entity like instance so how many instances are there so there are 3 different instances and what is the schema is known as the entity set this overall design your overall design ma ke cha roll number cha name cha and address okay so overall design ma चाहिँ के भन्छ हामी schema so each and every fields ma आफ्नो values हरु छ so we know that schema it is a overall design or overall design means it is a group so we can also call this entity set as a schema and each and every entity as an instance so instance then it represents row so this is what all about entity okay thank you